All right, recording. So how's everything? We this is the first time we're getting to talk, and we connected via Facebook. So what I usually like to do is just go, this is our green room time. Just talk about what's happening, and then we just jump into the podcast and go from there.
Yeah, sounds great, man. Yeah, things are great. I have a coaching business. One that's called Habit-Based Lifestyle, and
Hmm.
then the other one that I do with my wife is called Habit-Based Marriage.
Okay.
We do like a 2-day marriage boot camp, which is like a live experience we do in Dana Point, California.
Hmm.
So yeah, those are kind of the main things I'm busy with right now. And then I'm writing a book that's called like How to Live a Habit, or the Art and Science of Living a Habit-Based Lifestyle.
Okay. Nice. Very
So
cool.
yeah.
Um,
What about you, man?
oh my God. So I've got the podcast. I have a website design stuff that I did for the past many, many years, and I'm trying to bring that back around. Um,
Okay.
with a couple of my partners, we have also started a video production company. So we're going out to businesses and we're interviewing them and we're shooting B-roll and basically doing this commercial, this intro video for them and helping them uh, create content for their social media strategy. Then I'm also working with another partner who's focusing on headshots. And so,
Okay.
in this trifecta of, film, video, and photo is what we're focusing on our
Okay.
business uh, styles at. And it's all in the beginning stages almost. So these interviews that I'm doing with folks that have already walked the path. So I'm kind of getting that feedback, getting that idea. Okay, oh, these are the different steps you took to get to where you are today, and what are the things that I'm missing in the middle.
Okay. Where do
Uh,
you live at?
I'm in Herndon, Virginia.
Okay. Yeah. So let's see, I had 2 personal training facilities in
Uh-huh.
Washington State that I had almost for 12 years. I sold
Nice.
those. Me and my wife sold those about 15 months ago
Hmm.
and moved to Southern California.
Nice. I'm
So,
originally from Southern California.
oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what area?
So I've worked in Irvine area for
Okay,
for half of my life. Lived in Corona, so did that
okay,
commute. Um, I still have family out there, so I'm actually going to be visiting for Christmas and New Year's. Um, all my siblings, my uncles, my parents, friends, and we're all based out of SoCal.
oh wow, okay,
Yeah,
yeah. So I live in San Clemente.
nice. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a really nice beach town.
yeah.
Very
So
close to the beach.
it's kind of quiet and relaxing.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so what we'll do is I'll go over some. I'm looking at your habit-based lifestyle website, and I'm just gonna read off of that to introduce you. If you have a different intro, you can tell me, and I can get it from there. Um,
Uh, I mean, just you can go ahead and read whatever's on there. That's
okay,
fine.
all right. I'm just gonna do a little snippet.
Okay.
Welcome to another episode of Hacks and Hobbies. In this episode, I get to speak with Jesse Ewell. He's a creator of Habit Based Lifestyle. He's the best author for Of Man in the Mirror, a podcast host for Habit Based Lifestyle, and multi-million-dollar fitness business owner. So he's got some of the technology that your mind can use, and building habits is a surefire way to get the success that you're looking for. And we all have habits, and Jesse here, he's created this system that helps you figure out what habits are going to get you to the next level. So, Jesse, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Awesome, man. So, we connected through Facebook, we connected through the different social media platforms, and I like what you're teaching, man. It's the habit-based lifestyle. How did you come up with this terminology, or what inspired you to think in these, bring your mindset to this level and start this operation or start this lifestyle, um what's the word? So what took you what brought you to here? you know
Yeah, so kind of the way things started for me is I was always into athletics. I was always into sports. Those were things that I always excelled at. And I had this strong foundation in working out, fitness. I got my first gym membership at 12 years old. I started amateur boxing at 9 years old.
wow.
So I was always very into fitness. And around 16, 17 years old, I seen myself as, hey, I remember sitting in class being like, hey, I'm going to own my own gym one day. Back then there wasn't really personal training. So it was kind of like, well, I'm going to own my own gym because that's what I thought, the best thing would be. So I went through college, played some college football in Southern California, or actually junior college football in Central California. And as I stopped playing football, I got into bodybuilding around 17 years old and really started to take that on. And I did that up until almost 23, 24. But as I was doing that, I started training people just kind of on the side. And at the time, I couldn't get a job at any of the local gyms because everybody kind of knew who I was. And back then I was into just some illegal things like selling drugs, selling steroids, stuff like that. So no one really wanted to hire me.
No, okay.
And so I made a move to, at the time I was living in Spokane, Washington. I moved to Seattle, Washington. And since no one knew me over there, it was a lot easier to get a job at a gym. So I started working at a powerhouse gym. Man, this is around like 2000, 2001.
Wow.
And at that time, it was like I was living about an hour and a half drive from the gym. It was costing me more to get to the gym than it actually was what I was making at the gym.
Yeah.
So I did that for about 9-10 months. It got to the point where, it was like I wasn't making any money. It was costing me more to drive. So I ended up getting a different job. And as I got this other job at a gym, I remember going in, and one of the first things that they said was like, hey, we don't know if, you can actually do this. So I remember the guy telling me basically, hey, if you have to go introduce yourself to like 5 people and you have to know their name and what their goal is by the time you're done. And I'm like sitting there like, man, do I like punch this guy or do I actually go do this? And so I ended up going and introducing myself to some members. I end up getting the job, and I end up basically being this guy's boss like a year later. And within like 2 years, I was managing the entire gym. And then I met my wife, and I kind of got to this place where I had worked for the gym for, I think it was like 4 or 5 years. I got to this place where I was like, I think I want to start my own training facility because that was what I missed. And I was like a general manager, kind of learned the whole business, marketing, all that. And so me and my wife decided to start our own personal training facility. It started out in like a 2,200 square foot space. We expanded within the first 2 years to almost a 5,000 square foot space. And then a year later, we ended up opening a second facility, and we built it up to basically a multi-million-dollar fitness business. But throughout that, building the business, we have, 3 kids. But as we built the business, I also focused very heavily on the business, and I kind of became disconnected with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, just, my emphasis was on the business. It was kind of like she was to take care of the kids. We got disconnected, and I got introduced to a program called Wake Up Warrior about 5 years ago. And they basically, it was like I had good business habits, I had good, body habits, but it was like no one ever taught you about, relationship habits. No one ever taught you about, these spiritual habits that you could have, especially around like meditation, whatever your beliefs are, whether it's, you're a Christian, whatever. It was
Yeah.
just like, it didn't really matter what it was. What mattered is that you had habits, that you were, studying, spirituality, you were working on yourself, you
Mm-hmm.
were, doing a lot of self-care. And then not only that, but you were paying attention to your wife. And so as I went through this program, I realized I was kind of like a 1 or 2 dimensional like douchebag. I would focus very heavily on my business and my body, and I
Mm-hmm.
kind of left my wife and my kids on the
Mm-hmm.
back burner. And as I started to go through this program, I really realized that, they had a very big emphasis on like body, business. They called it being, which is like spirituality, and then balance, which was like your marriage relationships. And so I really started to adopt all of these principles and these habits. And as I kind of began to live in this place, my marriage, completely changed. We started going on date nights. I started leaving my wife messages every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And I really started to focus on, kind of building up myself, these 2 areas that I hadn't worked on.
Wow.
And, my marriage changed, my life changed, my business got better, my, even my health got better, and here I am, like this, fitness professional, owning 2 gyms. Back then I was chewing tobacco that I'd done for 26 years.
Mm.
I quit that. And so I kind of stopped doing a lot of these things. I started scaling my business. I started kind of just working on marketing and pushing everybody else
Yeah.
to the front of my business, and really just learning how to scale it. And our revenue at one point hit nearly 2 million. It was right around $2 million a year in business and revenue we were doing.
Yeah.
Um, and we were like killing it in training. It was kind of like the less I did, the easier it got. And it was really kind of backwards the way you think, because in business you're kind of taught to grind and really hustle. And
Yeah.
I found that the more I trusted the people around me,
Mm-hmm.
the more we could scale the business. So kind of a long story short, I
Yeah.
went through
Yeah.
the program. I was in it for nearly 5 years. But throughout that, I started coaching.
Mm.
And I realized a lot of what I was doing in business and training was I was talking to people about other areas of life, but there just wasn't a huge emphasis. And so that switched for me, really dialing in to talking about, hey, listen, the thing that's holding you back in your business isn't, your business, it's your
Yeah.
relationships, maybe it's your body, or maybe it's just how you feel about yourself. And so as I started to have this frame of habits, I lived this like, I was their number one case study for like years.
Yeah.
And so I started coaching for them about 3.5, 4 years ago. I did several of the Warrior Weeks. I was one of the lead trainers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started, I was the head coach for them they had a certified trainer program where we would certify people to teach the Warriors way, and kind of the whole process of it. And
Mm-hmm.
as I started to do this and live this, I started kind of taking it to a deeper level.
Wow.
Started understanding, why people have the habits they do, good or bad, and then how to actually shift them out of those, how to change them. Not only that, but like how to take your marriage to, okay, you're taking your wife on date night, your marriage has changed, but how do I take it to this
To the
deeper level? Or how do I, you know, not just look at my body from the external place, but actually internal, and start going into like blood work, you know, biohacking,
mm,
optimizing like different areas of my life. And so through that, I moved to Southern California. We talked a little bit earlier, about 15 months ago.
yeah,
And I was working for Warrior when I first got here. My contract had ran up, and it was kind of like, okay, well, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, I think I want to take this message, but like go, you know, deeper into these areas,
yeah,
and start my own business. And I'm like, what have I done my whole life that's helped me get to where I am? And I look back and I'm like, it's the habits that I've lived, it's the lifestyle of habits that I've lived that have got me to where I am. And so that's where habit-based lifestyle was created.
very, very cool, man. Totally see the different tangents. I totally see the different steps that you had to take because, like you said, you had to move from one city in Washington to a different city because people didn't know you. And a lot of the times, when you're specifically in the area of expertise that you're in, it's all local based, right? So people that are local to that gym are going to know who you are. And if
Right.
moving to a new place totally gave you that fresh start, you know, you have all this experience. Now you can apply it to a totally new market and bring to them, you know, what you know and be able to find that job. But again, even though you got in, right, that you still had those limitations or you still had the issues. Okay, you're not making enough to drive out there because gas costs a lot of money, right?
Right.
And that also goes into show, you know, how limited public transportation is available in our societies, and that's a totally different conversation. um which is really cool is that you learned from your mistakes or you learned from what wasn't working and then found out, you know, how can we make this really work. It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
really neat.
And I would tell you this too, like when I moved from Spokane to Seattle, where I lived, like, dude, I had nothing. Like
Yeah,
I had a friend that dropped me off. I didn't have my own car. I
yeah,
borrowed a car from a friend. I lived with a friend rent free for like a year, just to try to figure stuff out.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Having those, see, having those friends, having those external sources to provide you with that help is also essential, right? Because if you didn't have that extra friend who helped you spot, it would be much much harder. And there's people that have to go through those, so it's these small little blessings that help us get to the next level. And anytime somebody says, oh, I built my company on my own, that's such a BS. You're being such a bigot or such a arrogant person because you would not be on this planet if your mom and dad didn't bring you on. You know, you wouldn't have gone through school. Like every single person in our life helps us get to the next level. So it's really
Right.
cool to appreciate those people and acknowledge that. Um, I really love the story. Like, was it in Washington or Spokane, or you moved to Seattle from Spokane, right?
Yeah.
Right. So was it in Seattle that you had the multi-million dollar business going on?
Yeah. So it was a place called Tacoma, Gig
Okay.
Harbor. I had a gym in each city.
Mm-hmm.
And they separated each other by about 2 miles. But yeah, that's where I eventually kind of, uh, you know, lived. And, you know, for the last like 15, 16 years,
Yeah.
that's where we lived up until about 15 months ago.
Nice. So, what made you decide to come to California specifically and not a different part of the United States?
Well, Wake Up Warrior was, their headquarters was here.
Okay. Okay.
I had spent, you know, prior to moving down here, I'd spent the 3 years before
Mm-hmm.
anywhere from 15 to 22 weeks a year here.
Yeah.
So it kind of got to the point where I had to choose between do I stay in Washington and keep managing my gyms, which
Yeah.
I was getting burnt out just from the whole, gym thing.
Hmm.
And I really wanted to, I started to look at, do I really want to own a gym the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Or, do I want to get into coaching? And at the time I was coaching high level entrepreneurs inside of Wake Up Warrior, and I was running my gyms, and I had my gym scaled enough to
Hmm.
where I could pretty much work full time coaching men.
Uh-huh.
And I did that for a few years, and it just kind of got to the point where, uh, I'm like, man, I want to move and live in Southern California.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
there was kind of an opening to where it was like, okay, we got an opportunity to do this.
Hmm.
Uh, and I was offered, a pretty good amount of money for my
Hmm.
gyms to my manager. And so we sold their house, packed up and moved my wife and my 3 kids here.
Nice. That's really, really awesome. Um, so I myself, like we spoke in the green room, I grew up in California as well, and there's no place else that you can beat. Like California is just a place to be. Like you have to go there to know what all the hype is about.
Yeah.
Right? And you're so close to the beaches, you can, and you're close to the mountains as well. Like I learned to snowboard out in California. And you're like,
Okay.
what? You snowboard in California? Like, yeah. And there's no other place in the world that you can snowboard in the morning and go, hour and a half drive later, you're at the beach, so you can surf. So it
Yeah.
was really cool.
Yeah. I've
Um,
picked up surfing, man, since I've been here. So that's one of my favorite things to do.
yeah, yeah. And having a strong body and a strong core definitely helps to do the surfing as well, because it requires all that balance, and having that strong core is totally something that people don't tell you, that you need to have a strong core to either do snowboarding, skiing, or any of these sports, because that's what's keeping your entire body connected.
Right.
um all right, so you moved from Seattle to California, or Washington to California. You sold your businesses, sold your house, and started fresh. So
Yeah.
now that you've been here in the in California, and you mentioned earlier that you've been here for the trainings for the Warrior Within many times over the past few years. What is something that's keeping you going on a daily basis here, with your new setup?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the one, habit I've really always had is like growing, like
Hmm.
just grow, like growth period. Like, and I would say that whatever I did, even back as far as like, selling steroids, to owning my own gym, to
Hmm.
being a personal trainer, to, working for Warrior, I always prided myself on figuring out, okay, how do I be the best at this?
Hmm.
And even going back to, high school, college, it's like, how do I be the best at what I'm doing? So I would figure out, how to be the best, steroid dealer, which, was not a smart decision, but
Hmm.
it was like, okay, how do I get the best product for
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
But it also transferred over into personal training. Like, how do I be the best trainer? So I
Hmm.
would go out, educate myself, hang out with people who I considered the best. And then I
Yeah.
got into, you know, the owning personal training gyms. So then I would go out and I'd go to conferences, continue education,
Yeah.
just always trying to push myself to make myself better. And then, man, I would say really the last 5 years, I've done stuff from, Kokoro, 40 years of Zen
Wow.
to, I mean,
So.
biohacking like my entire life to really
Hmm.
try to optimize. I mean, I would say I've spent probably close to $500,000 on continue education to events to experiences, just, you know,
So it could be a
yeah, just to be
better
the
you.
best at what I'm
Hmm.
actually doing. Um, and it's fun. Like, if you
Yeah.
think about it, it's like, most people are kind of like, hey, I'll go to the gym, lose some weight, and that's
Hmm.
fun. But like, dude, I got to wake up every day. I could go surfing. I could go mountain biking.
Hmm.
I could go running.
Yeah.
I have a 2,000 square foot gym in my office that I
Yeah.
built. I could, I can go do red lights. I can jump in my sauna. I can
Yeah.
do like whatever the hell I want. I've
Hmm.
just, created a lifestyle that could, that I actually like dream of. And so, um, it's like, I look at this as like every day I get to have fun with clients.
Yeah.
And I get to I get to help them take their life to the next level, which is creating a lifestyle.
No, dude, that's very dreamy.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, I mean, you had that in mind, you as you're developing, as you're growing, as you're constantly expanding your mind, your body, and your network, you're able to get to the point where you've created this future that you were like, I could do this for the rest of my life because
right.
you have the freedom, and that's something that people look for, right? They want that freedom. It's not that you don't enjoy working 9 to 5, right? It's not that at all. But doing what you absolutely love to do and helping people achieve their goals, right? And that's what coaching is essentially.
Yeah.
What you may,
Let's back up a little bit. So let
sure,
me kind of give some people some stuff on this. Is,
yeah,
when you first start a business, no one tells you, hey, how many hours you got to work. The reality of it is it's going to feel like a 24/7 job. So the
mm-hmm,
difference is you may work 9 to 5 for someone else, and you're just trading in time for money.
yeah,
And so the only way to make more money is to spend
spend
more
more
time at
time.
work.
Mm-hmm,
But you're kind of limited because work may only allow you to work a certain amount of hours. Even if they don't, it's like if you work 18 hours, you only have 6 left over. And so you're
yeah,
kind of a slave to
yeah,
time for money. Now, some people, they may make decent money working for someone else, but the reality of it is I could never work for anybody. I did for a certain amount of time, but I
yeah,
always had to work in more of a commission-based job or performance-based job. So when I coach with people, what we start working on is like, listen, what type of life do you currently have? And what I find is most people, because I work with predominantly entrepreneurs,
mm-hmm,
they're slaves to their business.
yeah,
They're working 16, 18 hours a day, but they're actually like really only working about 2 to 3 hours a day.
mm-hmm,
And so what we do is say, okay, listen, what kind of lifestyle do you actually want to live? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, dude, you can create the life that you want, but it's called a lifestyle, and you're going to have to live this for 90 days before it actually comes into a lifestyle. Once it's a lifestyle, then you can continue to live this. And so
mm-hmm,
we really sit down and map out exactly what someone wants their life to look like, what they want their business to look like. And so what I really do with people is say, okay, listen, how many hours a day do you want to work? How much time you want to spend with your family? What do you want your body to look like? How do you want to feel about yourself? And
yeah,
how much money do you want to make? And then once we figure that out, we start working backwards. And what are the habits that are going to support this lifestyle?
mm-hmm,
And so if I know that working out is going to get me to this place that I want to go, am I going to take the day off? No.
mm-hmm,
If taking my wife on a date, or setting up a play date, or communicating with my wife in a certain way is going to get my relationship to where I want it to be, will I avoid that? No. Same in business. So most people in business know what they don't want. They don't actually know what they do want. And
yeah,
so what they end up getting is more of what they don't want.
because that's what their focus has been. Like, I don't want
Right.
that. Well, you're gonna get that because that's what's in your mind.
Sure. So if we take that into marriage, why do most marriages not work? Because people are more focused on what they're not getting instead of what they are getting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's this idea of spending, okay, spending time, spending thought, spending energy, spending money, okay, or investing. We invest time, money, energy, and thought. So we can either spend or we can invest. Most people are spending all of their time, all of their thought, all of their energy on what they don't have instead of investing into creating what they actually want.
Wow. That's a really awesome way to look at it. And I'm thinking about what I've been doing and what I've been spending my time in. And I'm thinking to myself, have I been spending this time or have I been investing in building something different?
Sure. So here's how you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you look at what are my results,
Yeah.
and my results tell me if I'm spending or investing. So instead of feeling like, oh, I'm a loser, I'm spending, and it's like you feel this guilt and shame. It's like, okay, well, so I've been spending, but what if I started investing? Like, what could change in my life if I just started investing into the thoughts that get me what I want?
Mm-hmm.
What if I started investing my time into the things that get me what I want?
Yeah.
How different could my life be? And it's like, man, it takes the same amount of energy to spend or invest. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the choice on what you want to do.
Yeah. That's a great point. It's so for an example that I can think of is I invested time in beekeeping, right? I built the hives, I got the bees. I'm investing the time and feeding them, investing so they have everything that they need. So now a year later, I have the result, which is 40 pounds of honey.
Right.
So that's investing time in it. I spent countless number of hours on our new backyard that we just had the sod put in. So is it spending time that I'm watering, the grass every day,
No, you're
or is it
investing.
I'm investing my time in watering the grass, making sure the leaves are off of the grass, making sure to mow the lawn so it grows and it becomes the green grass that everybody looks for. When people say the grass is greener on the other side, no, that's wrong. The grass is greener where you water it the most. And I could
Right.
literally see that based on the placement of my sprinklers. I could see circles. Okay, this is where it's the greenest. I gotta move it to get to the other points. But yeah, really cool. Okay.
So here's the other thing you see is people use language and it'll
Mm-hmm.
take you down the path of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So they'll say things like, hey, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or I'm not where I should be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, if you're not where you should be, guess where you're going to end up?
Where it's supposed to be. But
Exactly where
yeah,
you
where you are.
don't want to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So when we say these things, they're leading us down this path of, you know, I'm not where I should be, I haven't, I could do so much better, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we focus on that, we never actually get to where we want to be.
Mm. So you got to think about the place that we want to go.
Right. And
Mm.
so if I'm focused on the place I want to go, I know whether or not I'm going to get there. Okay. So
Yeah,
I don't say things like I'm not where I should be. I'm either
yeah,
not there or I'm there.
yeah,
Okay. And so that's the difference in knowing where you want to go without a doubt. And you can have adjustments in that along the way, but like my habits support that. And so the things that I say is like, hey, I'm not where I should be. I'm not where I want to be. Those don't matter because you just simply say, hey, I'm not there yet.
yeah,
Okay. Or I have got there. But like there's a difference when you're playing in the middle, and most people are kind of in that land of maybe. Okay. There's
yeah.
either you're there or you're not there. But where I should be or shouldn't be is in the middle. And guess where that keeps you?
In the middle.
Yeah.
Just always keep you in the
So,
middle. Mm-hmm.
so really my job is to work with people through like the language they speak. So that language produces a habit. it produces a habit of being stuck in the habit loop.
Yeah.
Okay. And the habit loop means that if we're stuck in it, we can't ever get outside of it. And if we can't get outside of it, how do I grow to the next level?
Yeah.
If I can't go to the next level, I just stay stuck.
And that's what the rat race is, right? You're stuck in that circle.
Yeah. Whenever you hear people say I'm stuck, or, these things, they're stuck in this place of not knowing what they really want, or just they're clear on what they don't want. And so they just stay stuck on that.
Because then your mind essentially focus on that, like, hey, I'm stuck, I can't really do anything, I'm just going to stay here, instead of saying, hey, I'm going this direction, these are the steps that I've taken so far, and in this much time I'm going to be there. So now your mind creates those opportunities, it creates and opens those things for you to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you were climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
The goal was to make it to the top. Okay.
Yeah.
So if the goal was to make it to the top and you're halfway there, you're like, hey, I'm halfway here, I got a little ways to go. But the person who says I'm not where I should be, guess where they're at? They're still at the base camp.
Yeah.
Still telling you, hey, I'm not where I should be, and they haven't moved.
Yeah.
Or I'm not where I want to be. Well, guess where that person's not where they want to be? They're at the bottom of the mountain, still trying to figure out how the hell to get to the first step.
Yeah. I was just listening to Greg Roulette. He's an Emmy Award winner. But he's just given a talk about being ambitious, and you could basically be sitting in a place of not growing because, like you said, you keep thinking about, I'm not there, I got to do all of these things. And I think a lot of the times what happens is people don't know what the different steps they need to take to get to that next level. Sure, they can learn about, the different tools that are available online, different software that can pay. But again, how to use it and how to use it effectively, unless you try it, you're not going to know what you're breaking versus what you're not breaking.
Sure. And so really where I back people up is say, okay, instead of figuring out all the steps, why don't we just figure out the first step? Because here's what happens when we start moving.
Yeah.
Guess what else starts moving? Whatever I want, right?
Yeah,
and so if I take the first step up the mountain, all of a sudden the mountain comes closer to me, the top.
Yeah.
But if I stay here and I keep reading a book, I go to another seminar, I do all these things, it doesn't mean I'm taking a step. It means I'm acquiring more knowledge, more things, but at the same time, I still have to figure out, well, what is the first step that I got to take?
Yeah.
Because the minute I move towards what I want, that same thing is moving towards me.
Wow. There's a saying in the Quran, or even in the Bible, I'm sure, that the more you pray, the more you think of me. God says, the more you think of me, the more I'm thinking of you. I'm going to run closer to you. So you become closer to God because that's top of mind for you. And it's true for anything at all. Like when you're driving, when you're cycling, whatever you're doing, if you're not taking action, there's no reaction. You're still in one place. And that's so many different ways that you can say the same thing.
Right. Yeah. And so what do most people do is I'm going to sign up for this course.
Yeah.
I'm going to sign up for this course.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to read this book.
Yeah.
I'm going to go listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
But they still haven't done one thing.
Right.
And that's taking a step.
Absolutely.
So, and the thing with like religion and God and all these things is like people pray and you can pray, but if you don't like listen or take action on what's being prayed upon or what you're calling forward, it's not going to come forward. And so what do most people do is they pray and wait for something to change or something to happen, and they're like, oh my gosh, God doesn't love me,
Yeah,
blah blah blah. It's like, no, he's been like hitting you on the head, telling you to move
exactly.
forward, and you just kept praying.
You're absolutely right when they say, um, pray for your camel to be safe, but don't forget to tie him down.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want your horse to be stolen, you can pray all you want, but if you haven't tied him down to a post, well, guess what? He's gonna be stolen. He's gonna run away or whatever.
Right.
So action, taking action, and doing the homework, right? And it came to a realization the other day that I don't like to do homework. Like I can be out there shooting film, shooting video, taking photos, but then coming back home and doing the homework of, going through that footage, that's another level of effort that you have to put your mindset into.
Okay, so why don't you just look at the reality of it?
Yeah,
You need to hire an editor,
exactly.
because it's not what you. So here's the thing: is how often do we do stuff like this that you're sitting there like pounding your head against the wall,
Yeah,
like, dude, I really don't like this. You're telling yourself that, you're pulling yourself away from it, yet you still continue to find yourself
doing that.
like
Yeah,
forcing yourself to do it, and you're just wasting or spending a bunch of
hmm
time, energy, and thought into doing it and not actually getting anything done.
yeah,
You could delegate that to someone else who really loves it and enjoys it. You have a partnership now, and
yeah.
now you get to go do what you truly actually love, which is shooting film and doing these things.
You're absolutely right. And that's what happened. So I took action. I started my podcast, a year and a half ago, because I kept thinking and thinking, and I was like, no, I've got to do it for myself. And reading the books from Gary Vee and other folks, crushing it. They're like, people, whoever wants to do something, you just go out and do it because nobody's stopping you but yourself.
Right.
So I took the action. I started my podcast, and I was like, okay, this is fun. I can post the podcast on the go. And then I started getting into the editing part, and I was like, all right, this is fun, but I don't want you spending too much time. And then I started doing the interviews. I'm like, all right, this is fun. I love talking and I love learning from my guests and what they're teaching and what their journey has been. So that's the passion I've had. I'm discovering these about myself as I go through this journey. And then I was like, all right, well, I can spend 3 hours talking to three people or 3 hours talking to two people, but I can't spend 3 hours editing the content. I mean, it's
Right.
fun. So I ended up finding somebody who could do that for me. So I delegated, just like you said, you got to delegate the stuff that somebody else would happily do it for you and do the stuff that you love by yourself. So, and that's where you're spending versus investing. Now I'm investing time in this conversation and this relationship, but I'm not spending the time in the other areas that don't bring me joy.
Yeah, and so what do most entrepreneurs do every single day is they're spending all their time, spending all their energy into doing shit that they don't really like to do, instead of just focusing and investing on that one thing that they're really good at. And so I get people I work with
Mm-hmm.
to understand, okay, hey, you're spending 95%, 90% of your day doing a bunch of stuff that you don't really want to do and you're
Yeah.
not passionate about. Uh, and so we turn that 10% of the time that they're super passionate about into 90% of their time. And they start finding, hey man, I'm so much more passionate. I want to be at work every day.
Yeah.
My business is growing. All these things are happening because I started to delegate the stuff I really didn't like to do
Yeah.
so I could focus on what brings me the most joy and the most money.
That's so powerful. I love it. And that's what it is, right? You learn, you take action. You learn, you take action, you make changes. You basically need to be taking action every single day in the stuff that you love to do.
Yeah, and I don't like people are always talking about action, action, action.
Mm-hmm.
I just like I'm like just take one step
Yeah,
every
just one
single day,
step.
man. Because one step every single day, a year from now, you're gonna be 36.5% different than you were a year ago.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
And that's really all I focus on. So
Yeah.
the action for me is just like, dude, just do this one time, one day, one time.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. Jesse, this was a lot of fun talking to you, learning your journey, what people need to do to get to the next level, how to build habits. And you've walked us through some of those things that we can do. And people can connect with you through the different platforms you're on. Habitbasedlifestyle.com is yours, one of the sites. But we'll list out all of the places that they can get to you from. I do have some questions towards the end of our podcast that I ask my guests. First one.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Awesome. First one. What is one hobby that you wish you got into?
Well, I would say surfing, and I started doing that about
You
three,
start
four
doing it.
months ago. So
Nice.
yeah,
You're
so
already doing it.
it's and man, there's like nothing. It's like meditating. It's like spiritual. It's like hitting several things. So
Nice.
that's one of my favorite hobbies I'm doing right now. Cooking is probably the other one.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, cooking. I need to get to cooking myself someday. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
Let's see. Movie would have to be 300.
Oh my God, that was awesome. That was a really well done movie. All right. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Probably 300.
Yeah. All right. Who is
Maybe
your
Braveheart.
maybe Braveheart? There you
Yeah.
go. Riding horses. All right. Who is your favorite superhero?
Definitely Batman.
Batman. Awesome. Last one. If you were a board game, what would it be?
Monopoly.
Monopoly. Fantastic. Jesse, that was awesome. Where can my audience find you so they can connect with you and learn more about you? And I'm definitely be sharing all of your links in below, but
Okay,
where's the
perfect.
first place that they could get to?
Yeah, so I have a website, Jesse, JESSEEWELL.com. You mentioned habitbasedlifestyle.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Jesse, JESSE.EWELL. You can find me on Facebook. You could email me if you have questions, Jesse@habitbasedlifestyle.com.
Perfect.
Or you could send the pigeon, one of the two.
All right. Thank you so much, Jesse. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great
Okay,
day.
man. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.